Good evening. Today is October 22nd, and we're going to start the regular school committee meeting at 7:01 this evening. My name is John Swanson. The mayor is not able to join us tonight, so I'll be sitting in as chair for this evening's meeting. As always, you can watch this and participate in the audience participation via WebEx. That URL can be found on the district website. We are also being simulcast via Peabody PATV, as well as a YouTube channel. Today's minutes are being recorded by our Laura Bowe. If we don't mind, I'd like to start with a moment of silence and then go right into Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. I forgot to mention, other than the mayor, Ms. Dunn may be joining us a little bit later. If you don't mind, I'd like to go out of order and go to the superintendent's report. Any objections? Superintendent?
Thank you, Mr. Swanson. Tonight, very excited to bring forth two students for recognition. These are two wonderful students, two of our best and brightest. Each year, we are allowed to give two awards from the National Center for School Redesign National School Development Council. Different organization. The National School Development Council gives us two awards to give to students in their senior year at the beginning of the year, so that way they can be acknowledged and they can put this on their resume and as they apply for schools. So we have two wonderful recipients. I reached out to their guidance counselors and to their dean today. They said some many wonderful things about these two students. If you look at their academic records, it's impeccable. Many honors and AP classes, very challenging courses. A lot of extracurriculars, National Honor Society, including we have an officer from the National Honor Society, and just, a lot of service, a lot of leadership opportunities for both of these students. And both of their counselors, Ms. Dinarello and Ms. McGovern, talked about how wonderful these students are over 4 years, how they've grown, how they've become leaders, how impressed they were with the things that they've done. But each of them said about these students that they are so excited to see what the future holds. And I think that is really a credit to them and to their potential. So I'm very excited to bring our two students up to the podium to receive these awards. We have Sam Farhat and Samantha Ladone. So please come on up, and we'd like to recognize you tonight.
So first off, thank you for joining us tonight, and obviously these are well-deserved rewards. Look forward to what you're going to bring forward as you progress for the rest of this year. Senior year is exciting. You guys are wrapping up a long school career. Obviously, you're doing very well, so I'm sure this is the first of many rewards as you guys will receive throughout the year. So thank you, and congratulations. Any comments from the committee?
We dragged them all the way here. We got to talk to them a little bit, right? So how are you guys doing? We're going to do a little interactive thing here. How are you? Good. Hit your microphone so that the whole audience can hear you. The button on the right, there you go on the base. So we applied to colleges yet? Not yet. We're getting ready. Have we visited some places that we like? All right. In New England, outside of New England, Mr. Swanson and I usually have a conversation at graduation about our graduates who attend school in Seems like a lot of them are in New England. You guys thinking about that? Staying in New England, all right. So we'll look forward to seeing where you wind up at graduation or at convocation when they announce it. Anyway, congratulations to both of you. Keep doing the great stuff that you're doing, making families proud, making the city proud, and yourselves proud. Good for you guys for being good, conscientious kids, all right? Students, excuse me.
Mr. Miko.
Great, thank you through the chair. Congratulations for being here and your award, and good luck for the rest of the year. And I know it's very difficult to apply to all those schools and wait and all that, but just know you'll land and end up where you need to be. And most importantly, don't forget about Peabody. In 4 years, we want you guys back here and being leaders in this city. So congratulations for now, but good luck, and we want to see you guys back in 4 years.
Thank you, Mr. Miko. Mr. Olympio.
Congratulations to the both of you. What are you interested in studying in school? Do you have any ideas on that yet? Engineering.
I'm thinking finance, mathematics.
There you go. Can't go wrong with those two. Good. Wish you the best. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, Mr. Olympio. Ms. Carpenter.
Thank you for coming tonight. We're so proud of you, and thank your families for sharing you with us. A lot of my questions were asked about what your future plans are, so we'll be watching. And please know that you are role models to many children that are here in Peabody. A lot of people watch this show, so.
Especially right now when they're raising the banner.
Right now. Good for you. We're so proud, and I hope that you continue to have future success.
Thank you very much. And again, as we say, you know, this is a big year for you. It's the most important thing, other than your grades, you're applying to colleges, have fun this year. It's all, you're wrapping it up. Thank you very much for attending, and again, congratulations.
Thank you. We like to do this at the beginning of the year so we can see you and follow you throughout the year, and we know that we'll be seeing more of you at other award ceremonies and whatnot, but it's a great year to celebrate your senior year. Enjoy it, and best of luck. We're very proud of you. Thank you. And Mr. Swanson, we can turn it back to, go back to the minutes if you'd like, and get back to the regular agenda.
Excellent. Could we have a motion to accept the October 8th, 2024 regular school committee meeting minutes?
Motion to accept and approve.
Thank you. You heard the motion made by Ms. Carpenter, seconded by Mr. Miko. On the motion, roll call.
Mr. Huckman,
Yes.
Mr. Olympio,
Yes.
Mrs. Carpenter,
Yes.
Mr. Miko.
Yes.
Excellent, thank you. Number 3, approval of bills. Mr. Olympio.
Yes, thank you. I'd like to make a motion to approve warrant number 5853 in the amount of $7,750, dated October 22nd, 2024, subject to audit.
Second.
Thank you. You heard the motion to approve warrant 5853, made by Mr. Olympio, seconded by Ms. Carpenter. On the motion, roll call vote.
Mr. Huckman,
Yes.
Mr. Olympio,
Yes.
Mrs. Carpenter.
Yes.
Mr. Miko.
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion to approve warrant number 5860 in the amount of $57,025.06, dated October 22nd, 2024, subject to audit.
Second.
Thank you. You heard the motion made by Mr. Olympio, seconded by Mrs. Carpenter for warrant 5860. On the motion, roll call vote.
Mr. Huckman,
Yes.
Mr. Olympio,
Yes.
Mrs. Carpenter,
Yes.
Mr. Miko.
I'd like to make a motion to approve warrant number 5858 in the amount of $1,150,312.07, dated October 22nd, 2024, subject to audit.
Second.
Thank you. You heard the motion to approve warrant 5858, made by Mr. Olympio, seconded by Mrs. Carpenter. On the motion, roll call vote.
Mr. Huckman,
Yes.
Mr. Olympio,
Yes.
Mrs. Carpenter.
Yes.
Mr. Miko.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Item number 4, continued business, Welch School MSBA. So Mrs. Dunn is not here, but I will start and then hand it over to Dr. Vidal, I'm sorry, to discuss the ribbon cutting ceremony.
Thank you, Mr. Swanson. We had a wonderful ribbon-cutting ceremony. great outpouring of support from the community. Former principals were there. The MSBA, Jim McDonald, said some very nice words. The mayor kicked off the ceremony and really provided a context for what that building means to the community. And it was a really nice celebration. We had our partners there from Danisco Design, Doran Whittier, our OPM, and Consigli all sent representatives. Did a really nice job, and I think the best part of the day was that we had the students there. And the students were there they made some signs thanking the MSBA, thanking the city. Many of our local officials came out, Representative Sally Cairns and Tom Walsh, as well as Senator Joan Lovely, who are always very supportive of us. And a lot of talk about the next project, the high school, which we're all very excited about. So it was a wonderful day, very grateful for the partnership with MSBA, and interestingly enough, they're using us as a model. East Bridgewater has reached out to us around touring the building because they're also doing a renovation, and the MSBA has asked that we provide a tour for them, and Ms. Massa will be talking to the principal about our process and what we did and how it worked out. So very much a very great day of celebration, and we were very proud and thankful for the partnership with MSBA, and we're very excited to talk a little bit later in the evening about our next project, the high school.
Thank you very much. Ms. Dunn has joined us. We were just going over continued business, the MSBA for the Welsh School, and we talked about the ribbon cutting ceremony that you were very much part of. Didn't know if you want to say a few words before we wrap up?
Thank you. Thank you very much. It really was a wonderful ceremony. Everyone there was talking about how much fun they had. And the MSBA really appreciated it. They said having all the children there meant a lot. I don't know, did you tell them about the Leeds Gold? Oh? You did. It was really nice that the day before, we were notified that the project received LEED's Gold certification, which is really difficult to obtain for any project, but especially for renovation. And even the MSBA did not realize it until we announced it at the ceremony. And that's a very big feather in the cap of everyone who worked on that project, and especially with Danisco Design, who your designers put that application in. But it showed that the work that was done at the Welch was done in an environmentally conscious way, being able to reuse a lot of materials, which helped not only with environmental regulations, but also with the cost. So that was another reason that the MSBA really is quite proud of that project. So thank you very much for the words about it.
Absolutely, it was a great ceremony, and as you mentioned, the MSBA actually involved the students in part of their ceremony, which was phenomenal as well. So it meant a lot. And if I'm not mistaken, this will be removed from the agenda and soon to be replaced by another line item with the MSBA. So we'll be looking forward to that as well. All right, returning to superintendent's report, Dr. Vidala.
Thank you, Mr. Swanson. So the next item on the agenda is the MSBA deliverables. We talked a little bit about those items last meeting, and so tonight in our packet we have 3 draft documents that will be submitted by October 30th, so next week. The first one is the educational profile questionnaire, and I met today at 1 p.m. with the mayor and with Ms. Griffin Dunn, and we went over some of these. So I did make some edits based on the information that Ms. Dunn had provided. So on the first page, we have some different grade ranges that the original buildings, so the South, West, Center, and Burke were originally built as grades 1 through 8. So I'll update that. And our information, we had flipped the information about the renos for the Burke, actually had their windows done in 2014, and a partial roof for the Carroll. So we've updated that for our submission. As well, on the next page, when we talk about the different schools, We're changing the dates there to 24, 25, and it talks about how our elementary schools rise to the Higgins Middle School, and then the high school. We're going to, this year we have the 7 elementary schools, but we'll add the center in so the MSBA knows that. In the section about the current school, we have just the different room types. We do actually have 3 classrooms in the other. We have 2 ELL classrooms and a language lab, so that's been added. And we also have 2 outdoor learning spaces that Ms. Dunn shared with us. We have a ropes course for our JROTC, and we also have, remind me, the Bio Lab Center that
Arthur Peretzian Nature Center.
the Nature Center, named after Arthur Peretzian. So we've added that. We did have a typo on page 4 that we've cleaned up. And then some interesting things that Ms. Dunn brought up, which I thought were really great. We've added a 3rd music room and 4 music practice rooms to our proposal, things that we would like. And we know that these are just drafts and that they talk about best practices. For example, when we went through the Welch project, they added 2 sinks and they added some different opportunities for art and music that we didn't even have. So again, this is just a draft as we're going through, but I'd like to give a lot of credit to Principal Randall, who put together a lot of these pieces. In the DESI approved on page 8, which I'll talk about a little bit more in depth when we talk about the next document. We're proposing a couple new programs, which I'll expand upon in 1 second. And then we also have added information about the School-Based Health Center, which is a wonderful partnership that we have, and we want to maintain that. So we wanted to make sure that that was included. We also have several attachments about NEASC and our NESDEC enrollment projections and things like that, as well as the district strategic plan. So those are some of the items that I have for the educational questionnaire that will be submitted. I'll pause now if there are any questions or comments, things you'd like to add. Again, I want to thank Ms. Dunn for those additions that we have already incorporated. I think it really rounds the document out nicely.
Thank you. Any comments from the committee? Mrs. Dunn?
That extra music room is with the hopes of an orchestra.
That would be great. The next document that we have is a very exciting one, I think, because it really gets into the possibilities that we have for the new building. So that's the Chapter 74 Vocational Technical Education Viability Documentation. So this worked very closely, and I give a lot of credit here to Ms. Spinoza and Dr. Chase, who worked very closely with Ms. Randall on our current programming, opportunities for expansion, and then some new programs. So if you look at page 2 of that document, we look at criminal justice, and we would look to try to expand that existing program from 36 students to 60. Cosmetology, we'd look to go from, currently we're at 50 students, we'd love to see that go to 75 and possibly have some sort of salon at the new high school where we'd have an external entrance and people could come in and get their hair and nails done and really have a real life experience for our students, but also support our community. So I can imagine, maybe one of the vans coming from the senior center and bringing some folks over to have their hair and nails done would benefit that community and benefit our students. So I'd love to see something like that. Under culinary and baking arts, we talked about adding a program called hotel management under hospitality, and in our communication with Essex Tech, what they've done is they've incorporated hospitality, because it's under the same umbrella, they've incorporated that into their culinary program. And so they have a restaurant, and I can imagine very similar, having an external facing restaurant. We consider that front of house. It could be event planning and concierge. It can also be things like catering and things like that at the front of house, and then keeping culinary and baking arts at the back of the house. So we'd be very excited to try to expand that program. We have our current early childhood education program, which we'd love to see more seats for. Electronics and engineering, and that program could be expanded to include robotics, fiber optics, several other programs. We currently have medical assisting, which has 51 students enrolled. We'd love to be able to expand that through our partnerships with the School-Based Health Center and maybe some of the hospitals. And then we have our business and financing, which is currently an innovation pathway, and we'd like to see that move into sort of maybe the marketing area and some more business classes, turning into a full CTE program. And then we have 3 additional programs that we'd love to see added. Some of these were in the old Higgins when we had the CTE, including plumbing and electrical. But we also thought of a new program called Aviation Maintenance Technology. And this is a really growing industry, and there's a program out in West Springfield that was the first program in Massachusetts, and I think now there's 3. But this is really an opportunity for us to expand some programming, and our proximity to Logan Airport, our relationship with Massport, and I spoke with Councilor Turco today, who's, obviously works for Massport and has a very close relationship, and they're looking for people. They need to train people for 18 months before they can get onto the job. In this program, if we were able to do it, could get kids jobs right out of high school, and they wouldn't have to wait, so they could be prioritized. We also have Beverly Airport is very close to us, and I think another unique part about Peabody Veterans Memorial High School is that our GROTC program is an Air Force program. And so if we got into aviation, our GROTC kids could maybe provide a little bit more opportunities for them. So we have a lot of different programs that we're looking at, and additionally, what's not on this that Ms. Dunn and Principal Randall have also talked about, and I believe it's been talked about here, is digital media, basically replacing the old TV program. That is an additional, digital media and broadcasting is an additional pathway, so we can add that as well before the submission. So a lot of great things here. There's a lot of detail in the back, but I just wanted to provide that overview. Maybe turn it over to Ms. Dunn if she has anything else to add, and of course answer questions, because I know this would be something that people are very interested in.
Thank you, Dr. Vidala. The additional programs that are really just exploring the opportunity for those all need to be vetted through a process with the workforce development, and they take a couple of years to get approval of. So doing this now and giving the MSBA a bit of a heads up that we're looking into these programs allows MSBA to formulate the idea of what type of a building we would need to be able to expand our programs, the ones we currently have, and then to add additional ones. And it will help our application going forward for a really full picture of how we're trying to increase our CTE offerings to the students. Because one of the things, and Dr. Vidal had put it into the report, we're looking for a space that can be adjusted to be able to be used for programs. Vocational programs necessarily have different size classrooms. Some have classrooms traditional size, and others have things on up to the size of a shop. So when they're talking about what kind of financing we'll get, what kind of a budget we'll have, this is all going to play a part in being able to flesh that out and actually design a building. But we're also aware of the fact that there are a lot of people who, for whatever reason, decide they don't want to go to Peabody Veterans Memorial High School. And this is trying to be able to make a building that's going to be able to sustain the citizens of Peabody and encourage them to stay in our programs without going to school choice, going to other places. There's a lot of partnerships involved in the behind-the-scenes discussion of these programs with Essex North Shore and with Salem, and Dr. Vidal has been working on those with Dr. Riccio and Dr. Zreich over in Salem. So it's a really exciting proposal to be able to submit something like that and really open some new doors to a PVMHS that's going to take us into the next 50 years.
Thank you, Mrs. Dunn. And I'd just like to say, too, that we are going to need a lot of different partnerships and reaching out to people into the community. So, Mr. Miko, we may be leaning on you for connections at Logan Airport as well, because I know that's going to be a really important piece for us to maintain good relationships. And I know you're a guy with some pull over there, so that's always helpful as well.
Thank you. Any comments, questions?
Excellent. So with this one, we would require a vote of the school committee to support the new programming. It would go along with this, and so Ms. Maccarelli would prepare the minutes of this meeting and the vote sheet that we could submit along with this. And so it would be a motion to support the new CTE programs, the new Chapter 74 CTE programs as presented in the viability document. And so, Mrs. Dunn, would you like to make that motion?
I would. I would like to follow the recommendation of the superintendent and move that the school committee approve the expansion of our current programs as well as the addition of the mentioned programs that we just discussed this evening. So moved.
Thank you. You heard the motion made by Mrs. Dunn, second by Mr. Amico. Any questions, comments?
Oh, just one.
Mrs. Dunn.
Dr. Vidal, do you think we need to list the new programs as part of that motion?
So we can list those new programs as plumbing, electrical, aviation maintenance technology, and digital media and
Digital media,
broadcasting.
Yeah.
So I'll be able to list those out.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, so moved.
Thank you. All right, so you heard the motion, second by Mr. Miko, amended by Dr. Vidala. Any comments, questions on the motion? Roll call vote.
Mr. Hockman.
Yes.
Mrs. Dunn.
Yes.
Mr. Olympio.
Yes.
Mrs. Carpenter.
Yes.
Mr. Amico.
Yes.
Excellent, thank you so much. And then the last document that we have is just an FYI document. It's the preliminary enrollment questionnaire. So we've been entering the information in here, and tomorrow we'll be working with Tom St. Pierre, our building inspector, to go over the building permits and things like that, to round this out. One thing I would like to highlight is that we are asking for an anticipated design enrollment of 2,000 students, so that way we could expand, that would bringing students back. What we don't want to happen is to open this beautiful new school and have it over-enrolled and feel crowded when we go in. That is a request, and I believe that we'll have to have a discussion with MSBA about that. But, you know, I think when we look to expand CTE programming and support students on the North Shore, I think it's going to be important to be able to have some room. So,
And
Mrs. Dunn.
just so folks know, on that list of deliverables that we're following, the enrollment meeting, it says enrollment meeting held, and it's going to take place with the MSBA. They will tell us when to come in, but it will be before January 28th. So these numbers are critical, and they're going to go over them and have us come in and meet to discuss those.
Thank you. Before we move on, two questions. This profile, there's going to be updates coming out. When is it due to MSBA?
this is due next Tuesday, October 30th, for these deliverables. And again, this is in draft form, so it's still early on. We can always make adjustments as we go, but this is sort of a first opportunity to share with MSBA.
All right, thank you. And when we get to a final version, is there any type of vote or conversations that we needed with the committee based on our proposed classrooms, number of classrooms, and we know the programs, but classroom sizes and whatnot?
Yes, so we'll go through, after this, when this period has ended, there's a couple more deliverables that we have. We'll enter into the next phase, which is feasibility. So we're currently in eligibility. We'll go into feasibility, and once we enter feasibility, we'll ask the city council to vote to bond the money for an OPM, and so we'll hire an OPM, and we'll look at the design and things like that. And when we get into that stage, and then the next stage, which is schematic design, there'll be several votes of the building committee, and the school committee will be very much involved as we actually look at the physical plan and what we're going to have.
Awesome, thank you. Any other comments, questions before we move on? Well, I'd like to thank, obviously, Dr. Vidal, you and your staff, Ms. Dunn, Ms. Randall, and Ms. Espinoza for putting this together, so thank you very much for putting these documents together.
Thank you. The next item on the superintendent's report is the FY25 district budget report. So we have a Q1 update. So Q1 has recently ended, and I'll turn it over to Mr. Rippon, who has a one-page memo here with the highlights and then some supporting documentation behind that in your packet. Mr. Rippon?
Thank you very much, Superintendent Vidala. And so, given that this is a one-page executive summary and for the benefit of those who are at home, I'll read it into the record and then I'll highlight where the areas are of focus. As Josh had mentioned, the first page is the narrative, the second page is the summary, and the remaining 9 pages are the line-by-line detail, sorted by location. And it highlights the appropriation, what's been encumbered, what's been expended, any credits, usually due to journal entries, and then what the balance is available, again, line by line. So this memo is dated October 11th, and it's entitled F25 District Budget Report as of September 30, 24 actuals. Please accept this memo as my executive summary of the Peabody Public Schools FY25 District Budget results as of September 30, 24. As you can see from the attached report, the Peabody Public Schools PPS has expended $12,344,266 and encumbered $31,123,978 against its $94,577,540 appropriated district budget for fiscal year 25. This $11,970,963 expended represents 13.05% of the total appropriated budget through 25% of the fiscal year. This is not unusual as teacher salaries are paid between September and June of every year. And in fact, there's a typo here, 12/31/24, 3 of the 26 payrolls were posted, or 11.53%. Taking into account that teacher salaries are the largest line item in the budget, spending as of the first quarter appears to be on track to finish, again, typo, fiscal year 25 in both a balanced and fully expended position. I do need to point out some areas that stand out as of the first quarter that I need to inform you about as to make you aware of these areas that were identified as quotation marks, areas of risk for the F25 budget that I will monitor so as to determine if additional actions are necessary to ensure having fiscal year 25 close in a fully balanced position, much like what occurred in F2024, which I presented last month. Those areas include, and I focus on 3 here, 2 more important than the third, but I'll speak to all 3. Health insurance was budgeted at $10,961,472. First quarter actual expenses total $3,221,975. That's the municipal share, or our share. Extrapolated for all 4 quarters, that amount equals $12,887,900, or all things being equal, a $1,926,428 deficit. I do anticipate offsets totaling approximately $1 million between our major grants and revolving funds, but that would leave a projected deficit of $926,428. Custodial plant has had almost $350,000 charged to it in error. There's no budget for it, and this represents basically trades and custodial salaries, I think even maybe some administrative facility salaries that are budgeted in the municipal budget and need to be moved. I do look to follow up with Mike Gingras, as this is an issue that has continued from last year. And we process the payroll, and so I want to be proactive and have the right account on the municipal side to then avoid this going forward. So I'm hoping this is the last that we'll be speaking about this. Lastly, transportation is showing a deficit of $550,305. This is due to both out-of-district and homeless transportation expenses. FY '25 was expected to have the special education circuit breaker funding to cover 75% of the out-of-district expenses eligible for reimbursement, out-of-district tuition and out-of-district transportation. 75% was funded for out-of-district tuition because that gets funded first. What's left over funds transportation. Clearly, there wasn't enough left over. Only 44% is to be reimbursed, and so for us, the difference between 44 and 75 is almost $700,000. We were counting on that almost $700,000. McKinney-Vento, the reimbursement rate is to be determined. I look forward to discussing this. I would like a vote as well on the second page. I want to speak to, there are a couple of budget adjustments I want to speak to ever so briefly. Well, there are three. The first is the $151,709. If you recall, and there'll be one more that I'll present in the second quarter as the 151 is moving along, but I'll explain. At the time we budgeted, we made a decision to, out of the central administration, pull $150,000 as a holder for an administrator to be determined. As it turned out, Chris Lord retired. He was funded in prep. He ran the prep, but he also, but then it got moved to Peabody Learning Academy. I think he was in charge of that at one point. Ultimately, this money needs to land in central administration to backfill what was cut out of there as part of the $150,000. And that, you'll see that reflected in the next budget. The $36,060 is moving overtime for drivers related to athletics out of transportation and into athletics to better reflect where that cost lies in athletics. The $2,574, I guess I would say we'll take it. As part of the budget, the city saw fit to allocate another $2,574. That's been placeholded in central administration. I'm happy to answer any questions, but that pretty much completes the first quarter's report.
Thank you, Mr. Urban. Any questions? Mr. Olympio.
Thank you for this report, appreciate it. My question is that $150,000 position, you said that where Mr. Lord retired, we have to put that money back into administration, is that?
Because I pulled that money as a holder out of administration, but we didn't lose an administrator out of administration.
Okay.
So we reduced the budget by $150,000, but left Dr. Lord's salary in prep and pulled it out of central office. So we need to just reallocate the money to the right line item. But the budget as a whole, at the time, decreased by the $150,000, just out of the wrong location because we didn't know who was retiring at the time.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Hockman.
Thank you. Mr. Urban, thank you for the report. Thank you for the quarterly update. I know this is one of the things that we talked about during our retreat, and I appreciate that we're getting the operating budget. And I know at a prior meeting when you brought up some of our expenditures and gave us a report, I talked to you about the grant budget as well, and I'll renew that request sometime, hopefully in November. We can. I know you have a lot going on. There's a lot. I'm still confused about this $150,000. So I get that Dr. Lord's salary was not in the administration line, but was in the high school.
It was in Peabody Prep.
Peabody Prep.
So we arbitrarily took $150,000 out of central administration instead of Peabody Prep. So we have to replace that money within the operating budget. So we're not adding to the budget, we just have to change the line item that we're going to pay it.
Thank you. So what I hear you saying is that Peabody Prep, and I didn't know that that was a separate, but in any event, is overfunded by $150,000, and the administration is underfunded. We're not talking about any additional personnel in the administration or anything along those lines. It's just how it's categorized through the course of the operating budget. Okay.
Correct.
And it's early, so I'm not getting too concerned about some of these areas of concern that you identify. I appreciate that you do identify them. I'd be interested to see, as the McKinley-Vento money is determined, how that impacts the transportation for special education, or out of district and homeless, I should say. And just rhetorically, perhaps, I guess when we had these conversations at the retreat, I envisioned these types of things to run through finance. And I don't know if there's a preference that the administration has to do it at the meeting as opposed to through finance, or I don't know. I know finance is probably going to get busy pretty soon with some negotiations, but whatever you prefer, I guess, is okay by me, but I guess I threw that out there.
I guess ideally it would have, and I think even this memo alluded to a finance committee, subcommittee meeting. It just didn't occur for this particular report.
Thank
Mr.
you.
Miko.
Thank you through the chair. And to Mr. Hockman's point, I think when we get into negotiations sooner than later with our unions, I think we probably will have set up some meetings with our business manager and our superintendent to discuss finance, and then we can bring it back out. But I do agree with you. That's the way to go. Thank you.
Thank you. Any others? Ms. Dunn.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My question is about the McKinney-Vento reimbursement. Do we have any anticipated time frame when that money would be allocated?
Historically, it's literally the June of the following year for the previous year. There was a pilot program that Peabody took advantage of where this money was front-loaded. I haven't heard of the same initiative this year.
Okay. The reason I ask is because I'm wondering if the members would like to request, or at least I would like to request, could we send a letter to our legislative body, Senator Lovely and Representatives Walsh and Cairns? This is such a perfect example of how the decisions made in Boston on funding affect a school committee's budget and affect a community, because everyone in the state was anticipating a 75% reimbursement for homeless and special education transportation. And then the votes were taken, and 44% is what they've had, for a couple of years in the past. So that really pulled the rug out of everything that we had done in that whole process of setting our budget. And this is a vivid example, and I think it's a good one that we should bring to their attention. And also to advocate, it was supposed to be even higher, but 75% would have been nice. So I'd like to make a motion that we send a letter to our legislators on that regard. And Dr. Vidala and Mr. Rippon, is that something you could write on behalf of the school committee?
They're two separate issues. I would separate them. The circuit breaker is one mechanism versus McKinney-Vento, but you're right, they both impact Peabody. I would start with the circuit breaker because there are many communities that are lobbying the legislature to find more money to fund that because it impacts pretty much every district in the Commonwealth.
Thank you.
You all have the motion. Do we have a second? Second. Thank you. Second by Ms. Carpenter. Any objection? Do we need a roll call? Can we,
Probably.
any objections? You want roll call? Sorry.
Probably.
Yeah, roll call. Thank you.
Mr. Hockman?
Yes.
Mrs. Dunn?
Yes.
Mr. Olympio?
Yes.
Mrs. Carpenter?
Yes.
Mr. Miko?
Yes.
Thank you.
I think when it involves money, we have to do a roll call.
Thank you. I agree.
And just to circle back, and hopefully I'll clarify this. Mr. Rippon did ask for a vote, and basically, it's three, basically journal entries for moving money from one line item to another. So if we start with, we've done this before with transportation, has $36,000, which will be moved to athletics to pay for custodial overtime. I'm sorry, not custodial, but for athletic transportation overtime. And he's asking that the Peabody Prep, which is overfunded by $151,000, move that money to central administration, which is underfunded by $151,000. So I think that is what he is looking for. Mr. Rippon, am I correct in that?
Yeah, I mean, ideally, if the committee could vote to accept the report as presented, that would be very helpful.
Make a motion to follow the recommendation of the business manager.
Second.
Thank you. You heard the motion made by Mr. Olympio, second by Mrs. Dunn. Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Hockman?
Yes.
Mrs. Dunn?
Yes.
Mr. Olympio?
Yes.
Mrs. Carpenter? Mr. Miko?
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you all. And now for some uplifting news. We have a wonderful donation to the McCarthy School from Nordstrom's Shoes That Fit program. And so you notice there's a gift donation form in your packet, which we would like to accept with gratitude, and I'll send a letter on behalf of the school committee, if so inclined.
Ms. Dunn.
Motion to accept with gratitude.
Second.
Actually, heard the motion made by Mrs. Dunn, second by Mr. Amico. Any objection? No objections? Unanimous vote.
Thank you, and that concludes the superintendent's report for this evening.
Thank you very much. Moving on to public participation, as we don't have anybody in the audience here. Anybody online?
Seeing none.
Excellent, thank you very much. Written communications, we have 3, the MSBA deliverables, financial year district budget report, and donation McCarthy School, Northram donation Shoes That Fit. I may have a motion to receive all 3.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. I heard the motion by Mr. Augman, second by Ms. Dunn. Any objection? All in favor? Unanimous vote. All right, moving on, subcommittees. Education Subcommittee,
Nothing to report at this.
thank you. Finance Subcommittee,
Nothing new to report.
School Safety Subcommittee,
I will yield to you, Mr. Swanson.
thank you very much. So I have asked to be put on the agenda to discuss House Bill H4940, an act concerning the safety of school children embarking and disembarking by school buses. This is the bill that is sitting in front of the, I forgot which house, the Senate Ways and Means Committee right now. The House Ways and Means Committee passed it, and with recommendations to pass this bill, and moved it on to the Senate Committee. This is the bill that will allow public officials, our officers, our safety officers throughout the Commonwealth, to be able to issue citations for those violating school bus laws. It will enable the video cameras that we've been demoing to be used as evidence, and for our police officers, particularly Peabody, to issue citations against them. So my ask is to, I'd like the school committee to draft a letter for the Ways and Means Committee, as well as our legislation, to say that Peabody stands behind this bill, and that we'd really like them to pass it for the safety of our students, as well as others in our community. It's not just the students that are affected here, it's by those that are picking their children up as well. So On the motion, sorry, Mr. Miko.
Thank you, through the chair. Could we also, thank you for doing that, Mr. Swanson. Can we also add the media, the newspapers, and police departments in the area? I know our police department is on board with this, but other police departments in the area, including the state police as well. I think we need to have a lot of people behind us, and I think we do have a lot of people behind us to get this finally through. Thank you.
Thank you, and I like those recommendations as well. From my standpoint, this is something that we've been working with the bus safety committee, subcommittee that we have, a task force that we have. Now that it's lingering since July in the House of Ways, it's something I'm putting on my own social media and making sure that the public is aware of this. So the more information we get out there, the better it's going to be for everybody. Mr. Hockman.
Yeah, thank you. This is fantastic work that you and that task force have done, Mr. Swanson. I'd just like to further have some further signatories on the letter, being the committee, the task force members, since you guys have been the ones putting in the lion's share of the work, and I think your recognition from the task force members is appropriate.
Thank you. I'll expand that as well. Mrs. Dunn.
Thank you. Two things. First, this is so appropriate this week because this is School Bus Safety Week. And it really is so important to remind the legislature that they need to support this. There is a huge push for this, and it's a needed push because it's been 11 years waiting for this to pass. The other thing I did want to let everyone know is that our resolution that we made way back in the spring is going to be heard in 2 weeks at the MASC Resolutions Committee meeting down at the convention. And the conference has really got a lot of support for this as well, so hopefully it will pass. But I think that the more people that put a light on this, the better it is, because it's the best position it's been in all those years, and the work of the task force has really made everyone sit up and notice. It honestly, it just seems like such a simple thing. So I think this is wonderful, and definitely support the letter and anything we can do to bring attention to this matter. Thank you.
Absolutely, and just so you're aware, this was started by Miss Maria Cherie, and she's been driving this, and the media attention that she's been going. She's actually been visiting Salem. She's out there Salem with the AAA as they're trying to get on board. I've been reached out to other school districts regarding how they get demonstrations. So this is really, her spearheading this has really driven us to that next level, and I agree, it's in the best position it's been in, and I think we want to keep that momentum for the safety of our students. I do want to ask Ms. Dunn for the resolution. Is there anything that we, as a task force, can do, show up, speak, help you out with that resolution as it goes forward? But I'd like to put that out there for you.
Actually, if you wanted to speak, you'd be more than welcome to. I always recommend that you come to the conference, and the way that it is presented, the presenting community, which is Peabody, will have the chance to open that discussion, and then it's put out to the delegates. As you know, we have a delegate from each community, and then they can discuss it. This year, MASC is going to be very firm on the process about the votes on resolutions and amendments to resolutions. But as of today, knock on wood, no one has come forward to change it, just more people want to support it.
Thank you. If you can give me the date and time, I'll talk to Ms. Cherie about that as well.
That would be great. Thank you.
All right. Is anybody, other comments, questions? Thank you for the support. Anybody want to support a motion to write the letter, and I'll draft it, and if you guys can sign?
I'm going to let you step down from the chair to make that motion. So I'm going to assume the chair, and you make the motion.
Thank you very much. I'd like to make a motion to draft a letter to our the House Ways and Means, the Senate Ways and Means Committee, as well as our state legislation, to support House Bill 4940, an act concerning the safety of school children embarking and disembarking on school buses.
Second.
Second.
Any, any discussion? We have a motion made by Mr. Swanson, seconded by Mrs. Dunn. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, roll call vote.
Mr. Swanson,
Yes.
Mrs. Dunn,
Yes.
Mr. Olympio,
Yes.
Mrs. Carpenter, Mr. Miko.
Yes.
Please let the record reflect if I didn't take the chair, I'd vote in the affirmative.
Thank you very much, Ms. Ockman. I appreciate the effort. Ms. Ockman.
Yeah, I guess sort of related to this because it came up during the course of the conversation. I assume Ms. Dunn is going to be our representative at the MASC conference. Can you please put on the agenda a motion for that and funding for that as well so that we can approve that in a timely fashion?
Thank you. Anything else on Mr. Olympio?
That is it. Thank you, Mr. Swanson.
All right, thank you very much. Athletics and Wellness Subcommittee,
Nothing to report tonight.
Qualities and Standards Subcommittee,
Nothing to report tonight.
Liaison to Parents, Students, Advisory Boards.
Thank you. The next meeting of the Parent Advisory Board will take place this Thursday at 7 p.m. here at Higgins, and the parents will be discussing equity amongst the schools. They'll probably be talking about another roundabout field trips, and they have all kinds of other issues that they've been bringing forward. They're also working on working towards the citywide PTO, which is really nice. They're taking care of that. And of course, there is so much going on in the schools right now. They're very busy. You can see all the list of activities. There's boo bashes all next week, and then they start with they continue with their fundraising, but I think a lot of them are going to be having some really awesome craft fairs. So you'll hear more about that probably through the superintendent's report, but it does come up for discussion oftentimes at Parent Advisory Board. So anyone's welcome to attend that. That's an open meeting as well, 7 p.m. Thursday night.
Thank you very much, Ms. Dunn. Buildings and Grounds Subcommittee.
We heard a lot about buildings this evening, so I'm going to pass on this one.
Thank you. Special Education.
Yes, thank you. CPAC will be meeting actually this Thursday at 9:15 a.m. at Breaking Grounds. It's just sort of a parent open forum type of thing, hosted by Elizabeth Mover. That is this Thursday at 9:15 a.m. at Breaking Grounds in downtown Peabody. Then on November 12th, there is a Zoom seminar put on by Jen Scalise. She's a special ed consultant and coach. You would go on to the CPAC Facebook webpage, I believe, to get the link. They'll be talking about overview of a specific learning disabilities in the classroom and at home, overview of academic testing, and then more of an open forum for parents as well. That is November 12th. That is a Zoom online meeting, and I would point you to the CPAC page for that, for the link. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Liaison to City Council and Legislation.
Thank you. Through the chair, Dr. Vidala, have we gotten any response or feedback regarding the setup timing before an election to not interrupt the class and school day?
We have not, but I will follow up.
Great. If you could follow up and send me an email, let me know. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Redistricting?
Nothing to report tonight.
Thank you. Performing Arts Subcommittee, nothing to report. I do have on my agenda to get with Mr. Simmons to set up a conversation with us regarding expanding to the strings instruments. On to new business. Question number 2, MCSA ballot question. Oh, MCAS. Sorry, reading.
Thank you, through the
Mr.
chair. It's
Meeker.
been a long night. We'll try to make this quick. Election night is 2 weeks from tonight. Is that correct? Yes, November 5th. So, question number 2 on this year's ballot is not about eliminating MCAS entirely. It is not about MCAS being one of the biggest boondoggles in our Commonwealth's history. So what is it about? It's about eliminating MCAS as a graduation requirement. Approximately 95% of our high school students pass MCAS, making them eligible to graduate. So who are the small number of students who don't pass MCAS? Well, they are some of our special ed students with learning disabilities, anxiety, depression, and/or other mental health challenges. They are students who may not even have a voice. They may be our low-income students who struggle from food insecurity. They may be some of our new students who are learning English. You see, the students who don't pass MCAS are usually the students that we are fighting for every day. Remember our every student, every day priority. This is why we teach, and this is why we advocate for them. MCAS has overstayed its welcome. It's counterintuitive to what we are doing as teachers, parents, and elected officials. We could easily recruit 5 to 10 teachers from Peabody, Lynn, Revere, Everett, Linfield, name a community out of the 351, who could put together an assessment test that would be fair to all students at the fraction of the cost of MCAS, perhaps a portfolio with work samples, just to name one. MCAS has been a catalyst for many years as to why cities and towns in our Commonwealth are struggling with school budgets. Sadly, MCAS has proven nothing in terms of achievement. Other than a very small group of districts, the cities are where they were when MCAS began. All the stress, all the anxiety, all that money, for what? Imagine what we could do with all that funding if we didn't have to prioritize MCAS spending every year. Imagine how much more we could help our students and teachers alike. We spoke about it earlier: trades, vocational ed, field trips, keep going, etc. Honestly, I can't believe it's taken this long to get a ballot question to eliminate MCAS as a graduation requirement. MCAS has withstood 9/11, the Great Recession, the pandemic. It's absolutely unreal. And I hope it doesn't take much longer to eliminate it for good. But that's for our politicians in DC to decide. That's for another night. But for now, we have the power to help our teachers and our most vulnerable students by voting yes on question 2. So at this time, I'd like to make a motion to have the Peabody School Committee endorse voting yes on question 2 of this year's ballot to eliminate MCAS as a graduation requirement. So moved.
Second.
Heard the motion made by Mr. Miko, second by Mrs. Dunn. Open for discussion. Mrs. Dunn.
I wanted to applaud. Thank you, Mr. Miko. You said it absolutely perfectly. So many things are wrong with requiring this test as a graduation requirement. All the research shows that, yes, we do need standardized testing, but when you hang a student's entire future on the score from one test, and it's a test that's flawed, it really impacts on the future, and watching out for every child is important. So I thank you for what you said.
Thank you. Any other comments? Just Mr. Miko, just for my clarity and actually the public's clarity, again, as you said, MCAS will remain in the school system. There'll be tests every year, but this vote, this ballot question is to eliminate it only to eliminate it as a requirement of graduation, correct?
Correct. And again, it's only 5 to less than 10% of the students who do not pass the MCAS that are, I don't even know if they still give them a certificate of attendance, but they don't give them a diploma. So it's for those aforementioned 5 to 10% of the kids who are, for whatever reason, can't pass that test.
Thank you very much. And I just want to make sure the public was aware, and we see a lot in social media, we see a lot in everywhere, the misunderstanding this. Again, this ballot question is just to eliminate it as a requirement of graduation. We still will be, unfortunately, still be using it as Mrs. Dunn said, a flawed test, but we'll be using it for evaluation of our schools and how we're doing in the rest of the state. But, thank you. Mr. Olympio.
No, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Amico. Well said. Appreciate what you had to say, and I agree with it 1,000%. It seems like the places where I travel, the parents I talk to, this is the #1 concern that they have. And they stay up at night, they stress out over it. It really does cause major heartache with families. And it's just, I hope that it's successful this November, but thank you, and I'm behind this.
Thank you very much. Anybody else? Dr. Vidala.
I'll be very brief, and I know this will be maybe not a very popular comment, but I just want to put it out there, and I encourage everyone to make their own decision and to do the best they can. I agree with a lot of what Mr. Amico said, and we taught side by side at one time, and we share a lot of the same views about education. In this case, I will not be supporting question 2, and I do encourage everyone to make their decision. My reason for that is that we're still requiring the kids to test, and there is not an alternative in question 2 for graduation. I think that there's a lot of good things here. I just think it's a little bit too early, and I think we could use a little bit more time to develop those assessments that Mr. Amico was talking about, portfolios, to provide potentially an MCAS diploma and a non-MCAS diploma for our special ed kids. I've long said that. So I do believe that we need to do some more work on this. I don't think question 2 is fully flushed out yet, but I do support everyone's decision to make their own vote and to vote with their heart. And I know that all of you are doing that. So I won't be supporting question 2, but I encourage you to follow your heart on this one.
Thank you very much. Anybody else on the motion? Roll call vote.
Mr. Hockman?
Yes.
Mrs. Dunn?
Yes.
Mr. Olympio?
Yes.
Mrs. Carpenter?
Yes.
Mr. Amico?
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Amico.
Great. Through the chair, I would also ask that we draft a letter to the Peabody City Council for them to take up the same motion to support the 5 to 10% of the kids who do not pass MCAS. Moved.
I'll second for discussion, and then I have a question.
Heard the motion made by Mr. Amico, seconded by Mrs. Dunn. Mrs. Dunn.
I think it's great to send that letter, but I'll be perfectly honest. Under the terms of their rules for meeting, our letter would not be able to be received and acted on until after the election. They have a meeting this week, and we would have had to have it submitted earlier. So they wouldn't get it until, oh my goodness, probably the week after the election, yeah.
That would be November 12th. That'd be their next meeting after the election.
Yeah.
I think in this political climate, we may not have the results from the election until November.
Well, hopefully they're watching through the chair, and I'll just withdraw my ask of the letter.
I wish the timing were better. I would support this, I really would. But it doesn't prevent us from calling and lobbying our elected city councilors and asking them to consider that.
Thank you very much. So motion has been withdrawn? Yes. Thank you very much. That is it. Items for the next agenda submitted through Dr. Vidala and the mayor, regular course of business. Do I hear a motion to adjourn? All right. Thank you, everybody.